One of the first plugins I install on nearly every site that I build is Yoast SEO. It helps to manage the search engine optimization of the site and a few useful things like adding a sitemap and so on. So go and add the new plugin, search for Yoast SEO. This is the one here. Install it. And then when you activate it, you'll see an SEO menu appear on the left with a few settings. Let's have a look at the settings. If we click on the SEO link in the sidebar, it goes to the general Yoast settings. And depending on what you have installed on your site, you may see different warnings. You can see I've got a notification here. Close these notifications if you want to, although they do still seem to stay there, which is a little bit annoying. On the dashboard tab, you've got this configuration wizard, which you can go through, and we will go through that in a minute. But let's just have a look at some of the other features here. On the features tab, we've got on-off switches basically, which will turn things on and off. Probably the one that everybody's going to want to turn on is the sitemap, and once it's turned on, you can see that there is a link to the sitemap. So when you've activated the plugin, that sitemap should actually be active. If you find that you get a 404, when you click on that, then go up to Settings, Permalinks, scroll to the bottom, click on Save Changes. Even if you haven't changed anything, just click on Save Changes, come back and look for your sitemap again, and it should be there. The only other reason I can think of why it won't be there is if you don't have published posts or pages, therefore there is nothing to build a sitemap of. So make sure you have got some published content as well before you try looking for your sitemap. Before we look at anything else in these menus, I want to just go through the configuration wizard, because everything you configure in the configuration wizard is then accessible through these features and through the menu items down the side. So let's just click on configuration wizard, and you'll see that this screen loads. There are a number of steps. You can see them going across the top, and you've got two options: configure Yoast SEO, or you can use their configuration service, which would cost you money. So let's click on configure Yoast SEO. And this one just asks you whether your site is available to be indexed, whether it's ready for the spiders to index it, or whether your site is under construction and perhaps shouldn't be indexed just yet. For me, I would always choose option A, because even when I'm starting on a new site, I want the search engines there. I want them to see that I'm working on the site from day one, and that will keep them coming back more frequently. So I would select option A for that. Let's click on Next. And this is a question about the type of site that you're building. You've got options: a blog, an online shop, a news channel, a small offline business, a corporation, a portfolio, or something else. And it's not really that important what you choose. This is actually a business website that I'm using as a demonstration, so I'm going to put a corporation. And it's asking you, are you a company or an individual person? Again, you know what your site is. And this business is called the same as the domain name. Choose an image if you have one. I don't have it. That could be used for social media when your web pages are being shared. This is never actually going to be a real website, so I'm not going to bother with that. And click on Next. And then we've got options here to put in your Facebook page, your Twitter username, or your social channels. And so you should put those in if you have them. Once you've done, click on Next. And then this option is asking you, should your posts and your pages appear in the search results? The way I build websites is that all of my important stuff that I want visitors to see are posts. So posts should appear in the search results. I only use pages as legal pages, legal documents, things like disclaimers and privacies and so on. And I don't want those really appearing in search results, because they're not things I want people to find in the search results and land on my website. I want them to come through the important posts on the site. So I'll select no for that and click on Next. This question is asking if you have multiple authors contributing to the content on your website. The reason it asks for this is if you are the only author on your website, you're the only person who's publishing content, then you don't need an author archive. An author archive is basically like a category page listing all the posts that you have written as the author. If you have multiple authors, that can be useful, because you then can point people, your visitors to your site, to all the articles by a single author by pointing them to that author archive. But because I am a single person, I'm going to put no, there's only me. This screen is asking you to get a Google authentication code. You should be using Google Search Console, which links to your website, and then Google can inform you about problems and also tell you data about your website. So you should have your website listed in your Google Search Console. If you don't, then I would suggest you follow this link here, how to connect Google Search Console to your site. That will not only tell you how to add the site to the Google Search Console, but where to get the authorization code here to insert into this box and then click on Authenticate. So basically you will just follow the instructions on that link. Once you've done that, click on Next. I'm going to leave it empty because, as I said, this isn't a real site. And we're on to title settings. And on this screen we can enter a title for the website. So I can change that if I want to, and then also a title separator. Quite often when your posts or pages are displayed, the title bar in the browser will show the website name and the content title, for example. And then this separator here is the character that is used to separate those elements, so your website name from the actual content title. We'll see that in a little bit when we come in and have a look at how we can go in and manually change all these without going through this entire process again, this wizard. But for now, just realize that this is used to separate bits of information found in the title. I'm going to just leave it basically as the default. Click on Next. And then this is an option for you to sign up for Yoast's newsletter if you want information about the plugins and anything else that they're trying to sell you. You can sign up through that if you want to. Click on Next. It's now asking if you want to upgrade to premium. Again, we don't want to do that. You can certainly have a look at the videos on this page, but then just click on Next again. And success, you're done. We can now close the wizard and we can now go in and have a look where those bits of information have actually been filled in. So I'm actually going to start here on the search appearance. And you can see here is the title separator. This is information about your homepage, and you can see that the title is using these variables. So we've got site name, which is the name of the site we've entered. Page, that would include information like page 1 of 2. This is the separator variable, sep, and that would use the separator that we chose by default. And then there's also a site description variable there, and that would all be included in the title of your homepage. If your general tab doesn't look like this, chances are you may have actually set your homepage to show a static page. So if I, instead of showing my recent posts on my homepage, I choose to show this sample page. Let's click on Save Changes there. And then we go back and have a look at this. We should find that this has changed because it's now asking us to go in and edit the home page itself. So whichever page we're using for the home page, we'd go in there and we'd edit that page rather than relying on the pages in the Yoast, or rather than relying on the settings in the Yoast SEO plugin. If I just change that back and refresh, you can see we will once again get asked for the other information. You can see here that some of the information we entered during the wizard has been entered in here. We're a company, the company name, and so on, and that would also have the company logo. If you want to make changes manually, you can make those changes and click on Save Changes. Over on the content type, we can see that we've got these options for posts and further down for pages. And the first option is show posts in search results, and we selected yes, we wanted those in the search results, whereas pages we didn't. And so you can see that that is where you would then go and update that information. For all of your posts on your site, you can define a variable to be used for the meta description template. If you want to look at all the variables, you can go to the Need Help option at the top. And I would recommend you watch the videos. Wherever you are within the Yoast SEO, the videos are content sensitive. So it will be describing what you're trying to work on. If you want to look at the variables, go along here to the template explanation and it will show you all the variables that you can use. The one that I use a lot, especially for descriptions, is excerpt, because I will include an excerpt for every one of my posts. If I close down that help, what I would personally do for my posts is I would paste in the excerpt as the meta description template, so that whenever the post is being created in a web browser, it will use this variable to generate the title, and it will then use the excerpt which I have entered with my post as the meta description. And you can do very similar things for pages if you want. When you've made changes, don't forget to save them. We've also got the similar options for taxonomies, where we can say, do we want categories shown in the search results? Do we want tags shown in the search results? And for me, I like categories and I like tags, and by enabling those, they will also then show up on the sitemap. So I'm going to save those changes. If you want to set a meta description for your categories or your tag pages, you can't actually use excerpt. There are specific ones for categories and tags. If we go back to the help, I can show you. It's category description here, and then there is a tag description right underneath. So do look through the variables. There are some advanced ones down there, and use those to create the templates for your titles for over here, posts and pages, and then probably categories and tags are the most important ones. And you can have a look and see what the title template is, for example, for a tag page, and then see what each of these different items with these different variables mean, and chop and change them as you want them to. The archives, we've got author archives. We've got that disabled because of the wizard that we went through. I would also disable the date archives because I'm not interested in having specific archives based on dates. Breadcrumbs, you can enable breadcrumbs if you want to, but do check and see whether your theme already has breadcrumbs, because you're going to have to do a little bit of fixing if they do. You'll have to remove them from your theme and insert these ones. If your theme has breadcrumbs, just leave this one disabled. And then we have the RSS option at the end. And this basically gives you the option of inserting information before and after feed items. And again, you've got some variables down here that you can use. And you can see this one, after each item in the feed, it will say the post, and then it gives you the link to the post appeared first on, and then the name of the blog. You can see the blog here is a link to your site with the site's name as anchor text. So those are the search appearance options that you've got. If we go down to Search Console, this is basically the part of the wizard that asked us to authenticate and to put in a Google authorization code. You can go and do that if you want to manually. If you haven't done it through the wizard, social will just bring up your social links, which we saw again in the wizard. And then there's a few tools which we're not going to go into. You can import and export settings from other SEO plugins. You can edit files, for example, the htaccess file if you want to. And there is a bulk editor to allow you to quickly change the titles and descriptions for posts and pages, and that's the editor there. This site doesn't have an awful lot on it, so there's not really much in there. The final thing I want to do is just go over the general settings again, because the dashboard tab we've already seen, that's where you can access the wizard, and once you've run it once, you can go through and do it again if you want to. But what I want to show you here is the features tab, because we did look at it briefly and saw that the sitemaps was on, but there are a lot of other options. I want to just go quickly through those options and tell you what they are. The first two options are options that I actually turn off, but let me just show you what they are. First, the SEO analysis. If I go on to the all post screen and I can look at all the posts, you can see there's a couple of columns here. There's an SEO score and then there's a readability score. Those two columns are added by this SEO analysis and readability analysis. If we click on a link to go through to edit the post, you'll see that if you scroll down to the Yoast SEO section, on this content optimization tab, we've got two tabs across the top. We've got readability, which then tells you information about the content on the page and how you can make it better. That is added by this readability analysis. By all means, leave it enabled if you want to and go through it a few times, see what it does. I turn it off, and I will turn it off in a moment, but it is worth having a little look at. The other one is enter a focus keyword. And if you're trying to optimize for a specific keyword, what it's recommending you do is you enter the keyword into the box, and then you can see there's an analysis based on that particular keyword. So it'll tell you what it thinks you're doing wrong and what you think you're doing right. Here we go. Here's the options here. So it says, for example, the focus keyword doesn't appear in the first paragraph of the copy. For me, this harks back to the old days of the old way we used to do SEO, and it can cause big problems if you over-optimize your page. For that reason, I'm going to turn it off. By all means, it said if you want to leave them on and play with them for a bit, do that. But for me, I would turn those off. The cornerstone content is just really, really important pieces of content that you want to highlight on your website. And this is an option that is supposed to help you do that. I would suggest if you want to find out how to use that feature, you go along and follow this link through to the Yoast site and see the tutorials on there. But what you'll see here is if you go to the all posts, you'll see there is actually a cornerstone content link there, which will link all the content that you've marked as cornerstone content. And it's just to make you more aware, to make sure you try and force more links through to that content and promote it on your website. For me, I'm going to turn it off, but I would recommend you read that link, see what it's all about. Text link counter, again, we've got here links out and links in, 2 columns. So it tells you how many times you're linking out, how many times you're linking in. And the whole idea of that is to help you improve your link structure on your website. Again, I don't bother with that. XML sitemaps we've already seen. This next option we're not going to cover, the right integration. This is a system that checks to make sure your site is still indexed. Follow that link, read more about right to see how it works if you want to use it. I'm going to disable it. The admin bar menu is the menu up the top here. This is actually the WordPress admin bar, but this Yoast admin bar menu is this one here that's been added to the WordPress admin bar. Gives you access to useful tools, services. I recommend you leave that one turned on. And then this final option, security, no advanced settings for authors. This basically controls, if you have multiple authors on your website, this will control what they can and can't do. And if you just click to open the help there, it gives you a little bit more information. For example, authors could be able to remove posts from the search engine results or change the canonical. Don't worry what that means if it doesn't make sense to you. Essentially, it means that authors have a lot of privileges which maybe they shouldn't. So this setting to on means remove those privileges from authors, and unless you have a good reason to do so, just leave that one as on if you have multiple authors. If you're the only author, then it doesn't make any difference. Once you've made all your changes, save them, and then within this plugin interface here, we've pretty much looked at everything in there. The only thing we really should have a little look at is on posts and pages, and also on categories and tags. You'll see if we go in and edit a category, for example, at the bottom you'll see there are Yoast settings, and it's worth going through those and having a look, because what we can do is we can work on a category by category basis. I'm in here working on a single category, and these options down here will allow me to turn a category off in the search results. In other words, to no index that page on a page by page, category by category, tag by tag, post by post basis. So it gives me a fine level of control. If we go and have a look at a post, then I'm going to refresh this simply because I have turned some of these things off. We should see the readability's disappeared. Yes, okay, so now it's much cleaner. So we've got the snippet preview. This is what the page would look like in Google, or very close to, and you can see we've got the SEO title that's been copied from the settings that we set up in the SEO section down here. Slug, that's the file name that's used in the URL. We can see that we've got the excerpt that we put in. If we want to change things on a page by page basis, we can do that. We can go in, we can edit the snippet, we can type in whatever we want essentially, so we can get rid of the information in here and add in our own information. We can overwrite this if we wanted to. On this next tab, we've got the social information. If somebody shares this post on Facebook, what's the title that we want? What's the description that we want? And do we want a specific image for this post? So it gives you a fine level of control of what is actually shared. And also, we've got the same with Twitter as well. The cog is probably most useful for most people because it allows you to set pages as no index. At the moment, the posts, when you create a new post, it will pick up the settings from the default settings that you put down here. And we said we wanted all posts to be indexed and included in the search results. So that is what it's set at. It's set for posts currently, yes. We could turn that off to no if we wanted. And what would happen then is that post would become no index, so Google wouldn't index it. We can also say whether to follow links on the post. The default is yes, so that's what's selected, but you could select no if you wanted to. And then you can also add in Meta Robots commands there. If we don't want to archive a post, you can put that in, no image index, no snippet, and so on. We can add those in there, and you can also change the canonical URL if you know what that means. So we use the Yoast SEO settings down here to set the general settings, and then we can override them for posts, pages, categories, tags, and so on by going in and editing the specific piece of content that we want to make the changes for. So that's an overview of the Yoast SEO plugin. It is probably the first plugin I install on every site, and I suggest that you go and read up as much as you can about it, investigate some of those other features that we've skipped over, and get it onto your site.